It's January 8, 2023. We're in Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. As a franchise, the Buffalo Bills are trying to clinch a top seed in the AFC before the playoffs start. As a team, they're desperate to find normalcy after seeing one of their own nearly lose his life playing this game. To understand why starting a new football game is so badly needed for some of these people, and the irony that that represents, we need to rewind. Let's start with the obvious and comforting. It's the Bills and the Patriots, outdoors in January on the last week of the NFL regular season. This is the quintessential AFC East type of day, especially if you scroll back to the 1990s. Remember the 1990s? The Bills love the 1990s because that's the decade they won the AFC 4 times in a row. Don't ask what happened after that. It's also when they led their rivalry with New England by a comfortable 12-8 margin head-to-head. A few years later, the Patriots won the AFC, but just once. The Bills disappeared from relevance as the 90s died, while the Pats became somewhat noteworthy. Some stuff happened in New England, but there's other videos that you can watch about that. The point is, the 90s are dead, and from 2000 until 2019, New England beat Buffalo 35 out of 40 times. Things got really bad in Western New York, but after a few decades of purgatory, the franchise re-emerged as a title contender in the 2020s. The combination of head coach Sean McDermott, hired in 2017, and a Wyoming quarterback, Josh Allen, drafted in 2018, reinvigorated the hopelessly dated franchise. And without a guy named Tom Brady around, the Bills swept the Pats in 2020. It was the first time Buffalo went 2-0 in a season against New England since 1999, and the first time they swept their entire division in franchise history. The franchise overhaul that began in the late teens started to emerge in the new decade. In 2020, Allen and a newly traded for receiver Stephon Diggs helped set a franchise record for points, 501, in a 13-3 season that took them to the conference title game. This 2022 Buffalo offense has built itself into one of the league's best, and the Bills sneaked in on the trade deadline to fill in a missing piece. Nyheim Hines, a pass-catching running back from the Colts, who could also fill in as a returner on special teams after wide receiver Jamison Crowder's injury created a need. Shortly after the Hines trade, Buffalo secured a playoff berth on December 17th with a win over the Dolphins. And on Christmas Eve, they clinched the AFC East with a win over the Bears. Across the sideline, New England is sitting at 8-8 and holding on to the number 7 spot in the AFC entering the day. But they have to beat the Bills to make the playoffs. And doing so would set an NFL record for Bill Belichick, with 20 postseason berths as a head coach. Also, this is a rivalry game. The Bills just want to win because it's the Pats. When Buffalo won the division in 2020, it broke New England's minor run of 17 division titles in 19 years. Today's game has no bearing on that. The 12-3 Bills are already AFC East champions and headed to the playoffs. But if you're good at math, you might have noticed an incongruity here. This is the last weekend of the NFL's regular season, meaning every team should complete their 17th and final game. The Pats are 8-8, but the Bills are only 12-3. So what gives? Take a closer look at this Buffalo crowd, at the Bills sideline and the patches on the coaches and players. The number 3 that's seemingly everywhere is a totem, a rallying cry for what's been a horribly brutal week for this franchise, these players, and one man in particular. Six days from this moment, Bills' second-year safety Damar Hamlin collapsed on the field in Cincinnati after a collision with Bengals receiver T. Higgins during Monday Night Football. Within the context of professional football's innate brutality, the play that caused Hamlin's collapse was considered routine. Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow completed a quick pass to Higgins near the 50-yard line. Higgins, running across midfield, collided with Hamlin here, who wrapped up the receiver in a very standard tackling procedure. The momentum of Higgins knocked Hamlin back. This play in this amount of space and at this speed is the kind of contact that happens hundreds of times per game. It avoids the markers we usually associate with a devastating injury in the NFL. There was no helmet-to-helmet contact, no non-contact injury to a joint, or anything that would shake you, the viewer, out of the lull of standard violence that the NFL provides. But very quickly after the play, you can see Hamlin stand up in a routine manner after the routine play but then immediately fall to the ground untouched. That moment is in no way normal. Medical personnel quickly performed CPR and used a defibrillator on the non-responsive Hamlin. After about 4 minutes, Hamlin was loaded onto an ambulance on the field and brought to a hospital. Listed in critical condition upon admission, he was intubated. Among players and coaches on both sides, the scene afterwards was absolute devastation. Hamlin was sedated through the evening and into the next day. Officially, the Bills and the NFL released a statement that Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest. Today, while the Bills are trying to close out their season against the Pats, Hamlin is still hospitalized at the University of Cincinnati. After Hamlin was stabilized, doctors determined that the precise angle and the speed of Higgins' contact with Hamlin's chest caused his heart to stop because of a very specific condition. Commotio cordis caused Hamlin's heart to stop after extreme impact to his chest. One medical journal estimates that the occurrence of commotio cordis is fatal 97% of the time if not treated within minutes. Before his collision with Higgins, Hamlin was leading a totally normal life as a second-year NFL player. And by normal, that means a world of injury and violence in the NFL where his then unknown medical status could have revealed itself at any number of moments. Hamlin played as a reserve his rookie year, appearing in 14 games and seeing limited time. Entering 2022, he was promoted to starter when safety Micah Hyde suffered a scary season-ending neck injury in Week 2 on Monday Night Football against the Titans. Hamlin played well as a starter, leading the team in tackles, including a sack in a loss to the Jets. But his biggest headline came just a few weeks before his injury, in the Bills' first game against New England. On this play, Hamlin was ejected for a brutal hit on Pats receiver Jacoby Myers. You can see here how fast the play occurs, in which Hamlin lowers his shoulder to make a tackle on Myers in the end zone without being able to reasonably calculate Myers' head would meet him at the point of impact. You can also see Hamlin's immediate frustration. There's no celebration from Hamlin or the Bills, even though the impact caused the breakup of a touchdown pass. Myers would get up on his feet, and that play was in the waning moments of a decided game. Neither of these things were the case in Cincinnati. With Hamlin's heart stopping on the field and ambulances rushing him to a hospital in a true life or death situation, the NFL did something it basically never does. It called the game. This was a really big deal. A national broadcast on Monday night with two teams at the top of the playoff race on the eve of the postseason, and the NFL just called the game. Bengals head coach Zach Taylor told the press that McDermott told him at a midfield impromptu meeting after the ambulance that he needed to be at the hospital with Hamlin and not coaching the game. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell made the call, releasing a statement that the decision was, quote, difficult but necessary under the, quote, extraordinary circumstances. The NFL prides itself on never stopping the show. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the league shuffled locations and dates, but not a single regular season game was canceled. This process in Cincinnati wasn't that clean in real time, though. There was confusion for the hour after Hamlin went down until the game was officially ended, just what should or could happen next. There was an erroneous report that the league issued a 5-minute cooling off period before play would resume. According to coaches from both sides, officials, refs, and players, no one discussed proceeding with the game. Bengals versus Bills was officially ended with 9 minutes in on the clock, with Cincy leading 7-3. With both teams scheduled to play the following week, there was no certainty the game could be replayed or restarted. The 12-3 Bills and the 11-4 Bengals would finish the season with one fewer game played, causing havoc in the standings. The NFL, who maneuvered a worldwide pandemic without a situation as impactful as this one on the postseason, dusted off those plans they'd made in 2020 but never used, including a series of contingencies. The biggest was holding the AFC Championship game at a neutral site if the teams that qualified played an unequal number of games, and both could have been the top seed if all those games had been completed. That could really impact a potential number 1 versus number 2 Chiefs-Bills AFC Championship in Atlanta. But let's not stop off the ever-moving machine that is the NFL for a second. It's a good thing and a sign of humanity, if not progress, that the league didn't try to muscle through the moment and restart play just for the sake of a clean playoff bracket or anything related to football. Only once in 1971 did an NFL player, Lions wide receiver Chuck Hughes, who had a heart attack in the huddle, die on the field during a game. The The entire time Hughes was down, the emphasis, according to reports from the time, was to get him off the field to resume play. Hamlin's collapse has inspired a wide range of conversations about player safety and the inherent violence of the sport, but it's also galvanized the city of Buffalo. Bills fans, or Bills Mafia, are notoriously insane and charitable. They once flooded Andy Dalton's charity with $300,000 after Dalton's Bengals knocked Baltimore out of the playoffs in 2017 and put Buffalo in for the first time since 1999. Same with rival quarterback Lamar Jackson after Buffalo beat the Ravens in the playoffs in 2021. As Bills Mafia processed their grief for a fallen player, they also discovered Hamlin previously set up a modest charity to provide holiday toys for kids in his hometown of Pittsburgh. Once Bills Mafia pointed their money cannon at it, the toy drive saw an influx of over $8 million in donations in a week. As an organization, the Bills processed their trauma publicly because they had to. On Thursday, less than 72 hours after the hit, McDermott and Allen spoke with the media. The scene, Allen said, just replays over and over in your head. McDermott admitted, "There's been moments that it just overwhelms you," and admitted to seeking professional help while encouraging his players to do the same. By and large, Bills players wanted to both get back to the comfort of their football routine while trying to allow for space to process their feelings. But there was no consensus on how to process, when, or what way to recover emotionally for each player. The first Bill to speak on the media was offensive lineman Deion Dawkins, who told CNN, "At the end of the day, we're humans. We have families, and we care, and we cry. We're vulnerable." As the Bills went through their motions, Hamlin stabilized. After a 72-hour window described as, quote, fighting for his life, he began to communicate with his family using a pen and paper, and then eventually had his breathing tube removed and was able to FaceTime the Bills team meeting. Hamlin isn't suited up, and his life is still very much at a turning point. Football brought us here, and while it can distract the Bills, it can't fix what happened. Breathing on his own in his hospital bed in Cincinnati, Hamlin wanted the same thing that every Bills fan did to end a life-changing week, just to watch a game. The NFL marches on through everything: national tragedies, physical violence, even worldwide pandemics. Hamlin's health is no exception, because at its zenith, the league is bigger than an entertainment property. It's a leviathan of American culture, and it insists it must keep moving. Hamlin's teammates can only use the same instrument that paused his life as a distraction from that reality. Welcome to a moment in history.
Underway as New England decided to defer after winning the toss. And here's Hines on the run back, breaking a tackle and taking it past midfield. And down the sideline he goes. This is storybook. An opening kickoff return for Damar Hamlin.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. And did you know that Secret Base has a Patreon? Check out these names. These are some people who have subscribed, and they get exclusive videos, podcasts, early access, all kinds of cool stuff with Secret Base. So for just a couple bucks a month, you can join these amazing people.